So give me an example of something like that, where we're doing something that's wasting time and therefore wasting potential.
I didn't mean to say like wasting time, like not spending more time on like to work on like something you're good at, but like on a talent, but don't work on it as much.
Like what?
Like if you're like good at singing, like that, and you don't like work on it. It's just something you like have a lot of potential you have, but don't use it.
What are some other areas that maybe we might have talent, but we just don't maximize our potential in that area?
Singing.
You just said singing.
Sports.
Sports. What's that? Instruments. Music. How come we always have stuff like that? Like sports or music or, comedy. How come it's always that? How come it's never like plumbing? You could be a good plumber. You have a knack for electricity. You could be a fantastic electrician. And by the way, it's an important point, because if I ask this question, how many of us are going to become, or how many of us have the potential? How about this? How many of us have the talent to be a great singer? And let's say 10 of our hands go up. Okay, so how many of us, out of the 10 of us, are going to have the opportunities to do that? And then like half the hands will go down, so 5 are still up. And of those of us who have the opportunities, how many of us have the perseverance, the hard work, and all of a sudden the hands start going down? Now, for every minute that you're spending, for every minute that you're pursuing singing, then what that means is that you're not pursuing something that could earn you a good living, but just won't, be as it won't make you famous, but it'll make you a better living, and it's going to be something that's more practical, and it's something that you can actually achieve. And for every hour that you're spending singing, you're not spending an hour getting better at plumbing, let's say. In other words, we're so focused on these massive, like dreaming towards the stars kinds of careers, that we completely miss the ones that are right in front of us. Like in our country right now, we have to import people to do high-skilled labor things like plumbing, electricians. It's this weird thing where we have massive underemployment. In other words, we need a whole bunch of these folks, and yet we have nobody to fill these jobs. And at the same time, there's also high levels of unemployment in almost every other area. But for high-skilled labor jobs, we don't have enough people. So we have to bring people in. And I almost wonder if it's because we're so focused on, you have to go to college. Why? Well, because that's where you're going to make a better living. Okay, doing what though? And for what job? In other words, you think about the kinds of jobs that you're going to have to go to college for. Think about how much it's going to cost. And it's kind of true, that people who go to college tend to earn more money, but people who go to college also tend to be in way more debt than people who don't go to college. And over the course of your lifetime, I don't know which one you're going to make more money at. If you go to college and you study history, or if you don't go to college, instead you become a foreman or an electrician or a plumber, and you just kind of commit yourself to that right away, or a welder. These kinds of jobs. We always need these kinds of people. Like I said, we're having to import this labor, and for some reason, we have it in our heads like, oh, you have to work smarter, not harder. Well, shouldn't you work both, smart and hard? Well, wouldn't that get you even further? Like, you can work smart, sure, you can work hard, sure, but can't you work smart and hard and get way farther than you would if you were just doing one or the other? It's like we're looking for this easy way. And if we're looking for this easy way, it makes it very difficult to do this thing right here, to sacrifice. Sacrifice. I'll stick a commercial in there for you too. So there's this thing, sacrifice. And this is a really, it's one of those words that we all kind of seem to know. We have access to it. When I say it, we know what it means. But it's such an incredibly deep concept. And it's something that is so, exclusively human. For those of you guys who have dogs, do your dogs ever sit there and say, or better yet, your cats. Your cats would probably be a better example. Your cat gets near the bottoms of their food dishes. Do they ever sit there and look at it and go, well, I'm a little bit hungry right now, but since my human parents don't ever feed me at all, I should probably save this for tomorrow, because I'll probably be hungrier tomorrow. Do your cats ever make that sacrifice? No, they don't. They don't. They have no concept of tomorrow. They have no concept of 10 minutes from now. humans, we do. And even some animals that seem to have a concept of later, like chimps, they don't sacrifice the way that humans do. To sacrifice means to take something that you have right now in front of you or in your hand and say, I'm going to not use this or not make use of this right now. I'm going to put it aside in the anticipation that doing so is going to make tomorrow better. So I have some food, and I'm hungry right now, a little bit hungry right now, but you know I'm going to be hungrier tomorrow. I should go ahead and take this food and set it aside and eat it tomorrow. And then that way it'll be there for me tomorrow. And then sacrifice, by the way, is even deeper than just that, because it's the idea that tomorrow is going to be better because of what you give up today. And it's so hard because you know, it's actually interesting. I was talking last period, you've got this idea of YOLO. You only live once, so because you only live once, what should you do? There's your Rorschach test. You know, the ink blot test. Whatever it is that you see is not really on the page, it's what's inside of you. When I ask you this question, well, you know, if you only live once, what should you do? Some people will say, screw it, man. You know, live like there's no tomorrow, and then but tomorrow does always come, right? So that means, you know, since you only live once, so we should just, throw it all against the wall. Another way of seeing it, by the way, is that since you only live once, maybe you shouldn't be so careless with your life. Maybe you should take it more seriously. Maybe you should prepare for tomorrow, because, you know, in 5.5 billion years the planet's been around. Has tomorrow always come for 5 billion years? Yeah. So maybe it's going to come tomorrow also. So yeah, you only live once, but if tomorrow doesn't come, then today didn't matter anyway. And so you may have had a great time today, but if tomorrow doesn't come, then so what? I went out on a high note. Sure, but you still went out, right? Okay. But if tomorrow does come, the question is, would you rather be in a better place tomorrow than you were today? And that requires sacrifice. But it's such a hard thing for so many of us to do. I can liken it to this. Let's say that you've got $200 in your hands. Or say you have $100 in your hands, and you have a choice. You can take that $100 and you can buy a pair of shoes with it. Okay? And it's a pair of shoes you've wanted for a long time. Or you can take that $100 and you can put it aside and say, I'm going to save that. And then once I get say 500 of those, I'm going to invest them. But first things first, I need to put them aside. You know, that's a hard choice for a lot of people to make, because you could have the shoes today. They could be on your feet today. You show up to school with them tomorrow, or later today if you take off and go get them. Or the idea is you have to put something aside in hopes that tomorrow is going to be a better day. But tomorrow is a hard thing for a lot of people to conceptualize. You know, what's your life going to be like in 5 years? It's damn near impossible to conceptualize. In fact, until your prefrontal cortex is finished developing, it's literally impossible to conceptualize something like that. So the idea of sacrifice is an incredibly mature idea, and it's an incredibly difficult idea for us to get our heads around. We can say the words, oh, tomorrow is going to be this, or I should sacrifice that for tomorrow. But to be able to really see that by doing this today, tomorrow is going to be so much better. Especially when you start to realize kind of what that looks like. I could go to the party today, or I could study, and study something that's going to help me tomorrow. First off, I don't think a lot of us even understand when you study today, and when you put things like that off, what you're actually doing. It isn't just what you're learning, it's also your behavior. It's the thing that you're learning to do. I need to sacrifice this good time today so that I can develop the character trait, the behavior trait of being able to sacrifice and put aside the immediate gratification for something that's actually going to lead me to something better. You know? That's the thing that you're actually practicing. It's not just the studying. It isn't just the one test that you're going to take. It's whether or not you're going to develop that character trait to be able to do that, such that it actually becomes second nature, such that it doesn't become a fight every single time with yourself. Oh, I don't know, what should I do, what should I do, what should I do? That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. But so often you see that we talk about things like that, and we'll use that as a defense, like, but it's so hard, as though being hard is a defense. As though it's so hard excuses what we should be doing. And we know we should be doing something different, which is fine. But then the problem is we get later on in life, and we look at, like it was in earlier in first period, I can't remember what we were talking about, and the word, it came out greed. Someone mentioned greed. I go, greed? Who's greed? And the person said, corporations. I'm like, God damn, corporations are so greedy, aren't they? they're like, yeah. Yeah. Not like us though, right? We're not greedy as human beings. No. Just those evil corporations. By the way, how did those corporations get their money? From you. Yeah, you bought their stuff. It's like people will complain about Starbucks. Oh my God, it's like $5 cups of coffee. Then why are you lined up to buy it? You know? Well, you know, like I remember, I'm not sure what the numbers are today, but this goes back to the 90s, late 90s. Nike was paying their workers in Indonesia 10 cents an hour. 10 cents an hour. Versus, you know, now we're paying workers $15 in California. 10 cents an hour in Indonesia to make their Nike shoes. When you took all of Nike's labor and their materials, you know, what it cost to make the shoes, their boxes, shipping, it was costing Nike about $5 a pair of shoes. And it didn't matter which pair of shoes. It didn't matter if they were Jordan. They're not made any better than any of the Nikes. It was costing about $5 a pair of shoes to make. And at the time, the average cost of a pair of Nikes in the United States was $105. So they had a $100 markup. And you might sit there and go, oh my God, they're so greedy. Yeah, because you pay it. If you didn't pay it, guess what they would do? Oh, they're not selling for 105, maybe they'll sell for 90. Oh, they're not selling for 90, maybe they'll sell for 75. Well, maybe they're not selling for 75, maybe they'll sell for 55. But no, we like them so much that we're willing to pay this. And we're so self-righteous that we'll complain about it in the process and blame Nike for charging so much for it. Corporations are going to charge what they can. And by the way, humans are no different. Take a pair of shoes and put it on OfferUp and see all of a sudden how you become an evil corporation. How all of a sudden you want the most for whatever stuff you're selling of your own. And it happens. So maybe they just behave the way they behave because they're just a reflection of humans. So I said to the person earlier in the day, you're right, corporations, evil, greedy, terrible people. We need the government to step in and do something. He goes, yeah. Well, who do you think runs the government? Do you think that they're different people from who runs Nike? They're different individuals, but if we can't trust Nike because it's run by humans and humans are greedy, what makes you think that you can trust the government then? All of a sudden, when someone goes to the government, they're nice and kind and altruistic? You don't think that they're just as greedy? Maybe they're greedy for something else like power. But you don't go into something like that unless you're hoping to get something better out of it. Nobody goes into anything without hoping to get something better out of it. It's not just sacrifice. So the question starts to become, what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to give up so that you can have a better tomorrow? Are you willing to pay $100 for those Nikes today so that you can have them so that people can, so you can look at your own feet and say, wow, I've got good-looking feet. Of course, they're not really good-looking feet. It's the thing that you've put on your feet that's good-looking. You know, it's kind of like makeup. Or are you the person who's going to say, I don't know, man, you go down to Payless and get something cheaper. Oh, but, and we'll bullshit ourselves. But they don't last as long. Yeah, I'm sure you're so worried about quality. You know, still then you could buy 3, 4, 5 pairs of shoes at Payless for the price of one pair of Nike, so you don't have to have them last as long. You know, but of course these are things that we just kind of tell ourselves because we try to talk ourselves out of this thing of sacrifice. And then I bring this up not as a criticism. I hope you understand that. What I'm saying is we should just be clear. That's all. Call things by their proper names. Like I said, Nike paid their workers 10 cents an hour in Indonesia. And I would talk with people about that, and they'd say, yeah, but what's the average wage, though, in Indonesia? I'd say it's about 10 cents. Okay, so for them, that's pretty normal. Yeah, but, you know, why do you think they opened the factories over there? So that they don't have to pay American workers what they were paying at the time. At the time, the minimum wage was $5.85 an hour. So I just know this because I wrote a paper on this at the time. And so they could either open the factory in the United States and pay $5.85 an hour, or they could open it in Indonesia and pay 10 cents an hour. So, or imagine if instead of paying their workers in Indonesia 10 cents an hour, imagine if they still saved the money, but paid their workers $3 an hour. Now they'd be paid way above the average. But Nike would make a couple dollars less per shoe. So, you know, your call. Which of these things is it that you support? We know that there are companies like Forever 21. We used to always joke about Forever 21 because we say Forever Under 21 because they got nailed for employing sweatshops. Child labor in sweatshops. They're paying little kids to make the clothes that they were selling at Forever 21. They're paying them like cents on the hour in sweatshops. They got busted for this, and people were still like, yeah, but you know, like where they're from, that's not a bad salary. Well, maybe that's why the country is poor, and maybe that's why they're exploited, because we're not paying the same amounts of money. And just understand, it's incredibly either racist or classist or nationalistic thing to say, well, yeah, you got to pay that in the United States, but it's okay to pay them that in Indonesia. If this is okay, then this is okay, isn't it? If this is what it should be, then this is what it should be, isn't it? No, you know, sacrifice. Because in order to pay workers what they're worth, you're going to have to sacrifice everything that you buy, because you're going to have to pay more for it. And the question then becomes, are we willing to do that? If it's a matter of making the world better for everybody. But if we're not worried about that, then still, no problem. We can go back to individual sacrifice. Having to give up the thing in your hand today for hopes of a better tomorrow, or faith in a better tomorrow. And that's just a hard thing. It is. It's difficult. Especially if you go to McDonald's and you're like, I'm not going to buy the fries. I'm not going to buy it just to eat the burger, because, you know, just eat the burger. And then you get there and you're like, well, but, you know, the fries and burgers are only going to $1.10, so, or $1.50, so I might as well, right? Might as well. You know, it's easy to rationalize these things. It's hard to do in practice. But having said that, that's why there are so few people at the top. Those are the people who are willing to sacrifice. But understand, they're sacrificing that. So then, now we have to seek out what that balance is in your own life. What are you willing to sacrifice to get back in return, so that you're not having to sacrifice everything for one thing? If you're not willing to do that, but also you don't want to go the other direction either. This is that balance that people talk about in their lives. That's what's hard. You know? And you guys are doing it right now, whether you realize it or not, just at a micro level in school. But when you grow older, this is your practice ground to see if you're able to do that in your adulthood. So the saying here is, the important thing is this: to be able at any moment, not to do it necessarily, but to be able to sacrifice what we are today for what we could become. But to sacrifice means to give up entirely for the hopes of that what you could become is better. You know? I don't know. I don't know if it's better. And you won't know either until you try it. So, moral of the story, give up everything you are and just hope it's better on the other side. There's the risk. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?